You guys are so important to me. I'm actually wearing a suit on a Saturday morning, so just for that. So I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. My work is up here in the Austin area. So most of my areas from Waco down to Kyle and all of the Austin Mission and the Austin missionaries. I've been with Family Services for about 2 years, but as you can tell by the gray in my beard, is that I've been around and doing this service for a long while. I was in the DC area in Virginia before this. One of the things I did want to share with you was way back in 1989, I was called as a bishop. Whoa, somebody got the mute there. So I was called as a bishop. I was 27 years old, and first week I was a bishop, a young man who had just been baptized the month before was in my house telling me he was the prophet of the church and he needed to walk to Salt Lake and take over. Okay, back then in '89, didn't know what to do with this. I finally got a hold of a friend of mine who was a psychiatrist. She explained to me what schizophrenia was, and she said, and there are three things that you shouldn't do. By the time I had called her, I had done two of those three things. So at the time, I graduated in accounting, and 10 years after that, I went into this and started to do marriage and family. So this is important. Coming here to Austin is one of the blessings my wife and I have had. We are now empty nesters, and I just love doing this work. And our first responsibility are the bishops and the leaders and being able to help them in any way we can. Thanks.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Clarice, for introducing yourselves. Kind of getting into kind of what we're doing here and just a little bit more about us. So, and the way that things are broken up. For the most part, if you are in the Austin area, Barry's probably the counselor that you're going to be working with. And for San Antonio, for the most part, is Clarice. There are some exceptions. I work with the San Antonio North Stake, the Eagle Pass district. And then up in Austin, I work with Cedar Park West Stake, or Cedar Park Stake, Austin West Stake, and the Oak Hill Stake. And so those are kind of my jurisdiction. But otherwise, you're gonna be speaking with Clarice or Barry if you aren't in those specific states. And we do kind of cross those up if there's work to be done. What we want to do today is we're going to talk about three kind of important processes or steps in family services that we utilize to help us best serve the members of the areas. I'm going to share my screen. I'll start also by adding that I'm not very technically savvy. So you're getting the stretches of my capabilities using technology today. So hopefully that it goes well. Can people see my screen? I don't know. Barry, you're not muted. Can you see my screen?
Yes, awesome. I can.
Yes, I can.
Perfect.
Yep, we can see it.
Thank you so much. This is just a couple things that I wanted to talk about here, talking about some of the demands that we have in family services. So as you can see, just about a year and a half ago, when we provided family services before, we were offering them with a fee. We had a fee for services, and it varied depending on the area. But in this area, I mean, it was around $150 for an initial session and at least $90 for any subsequent session after that. In July of last year, they switched that to a no fee process. So whenever we provide counseling and services to individuals that get referred to us from bishops, there's no fee. And what we found was there was a 33% increase in referrals in our areas after that time. To give you context to that, prior to that, we were getting a little under 600, or sorry, a little under 700. It was about somewhere in the 600s on average referrals to us from San Antonio and Austin from all the wards in those areas. And as I said, it's me, Barry, and Clarice trying to service that many people. And since that time, we've had a 33% increase. And so actually the last 2 years, we've been getting around 1,000 referrals, which is just an impossibility for us to be able to serve. And we know and recognize that, and we know that you do as well, but we want to try to help everyone in whatever way possible we can. So we've been doing some things to help. So we have had additional counselors, as you've seen. Clarice was hired on during that time to try to help with some of the demand. We've also hired a couple part-timers to also help us. But even then, there's still quite a demand of people that have struggles and challenges, and those never end. Those continue. And so we've developed some new models and ways to help and try to do things in a more timely manner as well. We were so overwhelmed less than a year ago that we were getting really behind on being responsive, and so family services as a whole changed that process recently to better serve everyone. And that's really why we want to talk to you today, is to talk about how we can what we've been doing to implement to improve our ability to better serve, to respond to everyone in a more timely manner, and to help get more people services that they need. So I'm going to talk a little bit more today about if I can now, this is where it gets tricky here. Let me see if I can do this right and move forward. There it is. Okay. So our service model that we want to talk about today are just in general is kind of the consultation process. At least that's what I'm going to cover with you real quick. Just so people know, when we just kind of outlining maybe even from the beginning. Usually what happens is there's a need that's identified in a ward. It might be that somebody goes and speaks with a bishop, or it might be that someone's discussed in a ward council meeting. And then there's a discussed need that's brought up and identified. And so then what happens is then a bishop will talk with the member and say, hey, it sounds like there might be, some struggles there that are beyond the capacity of what the ward can provide for you, because they may be emotional or mental struggles or challenges that people are facing. At that point, a bishop can go into the bishop's portal and make a referral to us into the system that indicates to us that there's a person struggling, and he can give some kind of general information about what's going on. And then we receive that information, and then we kind of take it from there. Now, anybody in the ward can identify that there's a struggle and have a discussion with the bishop, and the bishops can kind of, help in any way to get that process going. And that's always encouraged in ward councils. And we can also coordinate and communicate with elders quorum presidents, Relief Society presidents, anybody who's very connected and related. We want to be able to help support. And I know sometimes the bishops get very busy. And so if they're ever like, man, this person really is close with the Relief Society president, he can put a message in there saying, like, I'm happy with you talking to the Relief Society president about this as well. And we can coordinate with anybody in a leadership position that is connected with an individual that's struggling, and we can help with that. So when the bishop puts in a referral, what happens is we'll review it as counselors, and we look at them pretty much every day, and we'll see these referrals that come in from bishops, from members that might have a challenge right now in their ward. And we determine, like, okay, who's got the assignment to speak with the bishop about this. And then we'll send a link out to the bishop where we can schedule to meet with each other one-on-one and do a consultation where the leader, the bishop, can give us a little more information on what's going on, kind of tell us, what he knows about the situation, so that we have kind of an idea or perspective into what's happening at this time for the member. And that's really helpful and insightful for us. It does a couple things. It helps us get a connection with the bishop, so that we're creating a team now between us and the bishop and who's in the ward to support the member. And now we're starting to create and develop a plan to how to help that member. And so the process, as I've said, first part is the leader. He inputs that information. He works with a member already to kind of like work on, okay, what do you want to do? What are your goals? I'd also say most bishops, we do encourage Rick to have a conversation with them about potentially working with family services, if that's something that you're considering. We don't want them to be surprised if they find out that their family services reaching out to them or anything like that. We want them to kind of be involved in that right away. So we want there to be a good discussion about that. And then once they put that in, we get to, and by the way, I forgot to add this, but when we have that conversation with the bishop, a lot of times we're going to ask the leaders to say, here's the information or here's our contact information. We want the member to reach out to us. And there's a reason for this, is that what we have found is when somebody has ownership over themselves and they feel like they're supported, we want them to engage and take the step to come to us, right? To say, okay, I need help. But we don't want to hold their hands all the way. The family services model is really one of developing self-reliance, and that starts from right after that first conversation for us with the leader. Because then we say, okay, we love this information we're hearing. We've got some ideas on how to help them. So we'll ask the leaders, please have the member call our office, and then we can take it from there. And so after we've had that consultation with the bishop will give the member the number to family services. They'll call in and they'll schedule what we call a member resource discussion with them. And that's just a consultation with them to kind of hear from their perspective what's going on in their life. We're going to have a 15, maybe 20-minute call with them, and just get to know them. Just, we'll tell them we'll ask them what's going on. Please help us. Please inform us of what's happening in your life. And, we'll ask lots of questions, get details about their situation. And then we'll work with the member to kind of develop a plan. Like, okay, it sounds like you're really having some struggles in this area. And depending on what the situation is, we will look at then where to go from there. Lots of times it'll be that we are going to provide counseling directly with them. Lots of times there'll be other resources, which we're going to talk about a little later today, that might be available to them, that might support them in a way that they need, because maybe counseling isn't the best fit for them at this time. There may be groups, which we'll talk about as well, that we've started to initiate to help more people have more reach. And maybe a group for them might be a better fit. Or maybe there's a combination of things that we can do for them. Maybe get them into a group and then do individual, or maybe give them some resources and get them individual with us. Or maybe sometimes we'll discuss in that meeting with them that they might be a good fit for family services because their needs might be beyond what we can provide. Substance abuse is a good example of one of those things. We don't do really any work with somebody who's struggling with substances. We want to get them detox. We want to get them in facilities. We want to get them into long-term treatment options. And so that doesn't fit our model, but we can provide them with resources to help them as they do that. And so no matter what the need is, that resource discussion helps us provide them with tools, essentially, to know where to go there. And so they may be coming with us, they may not, but we're going to provide them the services, or at least the resources that they need in that conversation with them. And then we work with the leaders to make sure that this is the right outcome. So we'll follow up with the leaders and say, hey, this is what we discussed. This was the plan. And we encourage the members to go back to the bishops too, so that they have that conversation with them. Because it's all about working together to provide help and support to them. And so this is also our means to, we might not be able to meet with everyone, but we're going to try as much as we can to at least have a conversation with as many people as we can to figure out what is the best route. Having these discussions with members, which is kind of a new process for us, gives us an opportunity to support them, to let them know that there's direct contact, people who are there for them right there. And then they have just stuff immediately that they can do. Hey, here's a website that provides you with a bunch of tools to work on anxiety and depression. Or, hey, here's a addiction recovery group, right, that helps with spousal support for pornography issues, or even pornography issues or other addictions. Or, hey, we're going to get you scheduled with us for counseling, but in the meantime, before your session starts, here's some resources that you can utilize to kind of prep you for it. So we're going to provide them with lots of access to a lot of resources to get them the help that they need. And that resource discussion really is a means and a tools to help them get quicker support than maybe they've had in the past from us, because demand has been so high. And so we're providing that opportunity for them to have that connection to us quickly. And then this keeps a level of communication going throughout. So we're talking with the bishops, who's talking with the member, who's talking with us, and then we're going back to the bishops and we're encouraging the members to, and there's just an open line of communication. So everyone's on the same page and knowing these are what the steps are for the member. And then it gives them that kind of feeling of empowerment, because they've got things now that they can do to help themselves, be it whatever their struggles are. So that is the bulk of what I wanted to share with you, is just this member resource discussion. So that's going to be the new process that we've already implemented and we're doing now. So whenever you identify somebody in the ward who is struggling, just know that if it goes through family services, for a high percentage of them, the majority of them, we're going to have a conversation with them. And we've started to block out time in our schedules every day to fit them in so that we can have time to have those discussions and help and support them in any way that they need. Our goal this last year and this year going into the 2025 is to better support and connect with and reach all those that are struggling. The demand is high. There's lots of needs. There's lots of challenges. There's lots of struggles, and we're going to try to talk to and help as many people as we can to do that. So that is the first step. We're going to tell you a lot more and give you a lot more information on the process. We're going to have Clarice, Sister Goodwin, talk to us a little bit about groups now. And by the way, if you do have any questions, I see them coming into the chat. Please put them in. We're going to respond as quickly as we can to those. But like I said, we're also going to send out an email with answers to all the questions. So we do want to see them. But yeah, otherwise, Clarice, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. I am actually just attaching or trying to. We often joke that usually you don't go into therapy because you like, doing paperwork and all these kinds of things. So we're not terribly tech savvy, but I have just attached, I think, a proposed groups calendar that we have for the coming year. That's obviously subject to change, but we've tried to think carefully about our scheduling in that regard. And then also I've specifically attached some information with regard to our youth pornography group that will soon be available. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about. So when, and I think we have someone who may not be muted, if you haven't already done so, if you please mute. I'm not sure how to do that. So if you know how to do that, Ryan, that would be awesome. So when our services became free middle of last year, as Ryan mentioned, we were already in the process of starting to develop more groups. With this growing demand for mental health services, the church felt like it was important that we be able to reach more people. And so there's kind of a shift that we're needing to make, all of us, because we have a tendency to think that kind of the best way to serve people is to meet with them individually, but that isn't always the best way. And often, one of the tools that Satan uses is to tell us that, our situation is so unique. No one else can understand what we're going through, and that perpetuates some of the challenges that people have. And meanwhile, when you meet with others in a group and realize, oh, I'm not alone in the struggles that I'm having, and you're able to have a shared community with others that struggle with similar things, it helps to lift each member. So this past year, we started with a couple of, we started with 3 groups, I believe, that we did. We have a men's pornography group that meets for 10 weeks, and that's for adult men 18 and over. We also have an anxiety and depression group, and that's our only mixed gender group for adult men and women 18 and over. And then we also have done a Hold Me Tight group, and that's our only group that has curriculum that was not developed by the church. In general, the church develops its own curriculum, but this was taken, it's so excellent, it was taken directly from the community, and it's based on attachment theory. And so those are the 3 groups that we've started. So we just have started also a basic mental health skills group. And this is a unique group in that most of our groups are closed, meaning that after the first or second group, we don't add new members, and that's to help with the confidentiality and help with the building of the group dynamic. But this basic mental health skills group is open to anyone who may be struggling, and the curriculum will just repeat every 8 weeks. So I wanted to give you just a little taste of what the topics are in the group. So we start with healthy thinking, dealing with difficult emotions, stress and anxiety, depression, perfectionism and self-compassion, healthy relationships, and grief and loss. And so it will go in that order, and it will just start again every 8 weeks. And that will be running on Wednesdays from 12 to 1. So we've tried, as we schedule our groups, because we work in general between 8 and 5 Monday through Friday, we've also tried to be mindful of those that work. And so doing some groups that are either towards the end of the day, when hopefully you can take a break and coordinate with your work and schedule, or our members can, or during the lunchtime. So that's our basic skills group, and that just started this week, in fact. And so that's open to people joining at any time. The other group that we wanted to focus a little bit on, because it's our newest one, is our youth pornography group. So for many of you bishops who I've spoken with, this is something we've been hoping for and looking forward to having. And it went through an extensive correlation and piloting process and is now available. And so in terms of the calendar, let me just talk with you briefly about that. We have a youth pornography group that we're hoping to start the middle of January, and that will run until about right before spring break. And then we have another one that will start in July that will end close to when school starts. So we've tried to be mindful with the calendar of vacations and, you know, all those things that make it challenging with regard to scheduling. So let me talk just specifically about the youth pornography group because it's a little bit unique from some of our other groups. Most of our groups are 8 to 12 sessions, and they are generally an hour and a half. We do meet online. And one of the benefits of COVID was that initially we thought we weren't really sure we could do this, you know, being able to join with people in an online setting, but we've learned that we can and that it's really effective. And so it enables us to reach people in a larger geographic area. So we can have people from Cedar Park, Austin, Waco, and actually our region also includes New Mexico and all of Texas. And so each of the groups is facilitated by 2 licensed therapists or counselors. And so long as we, for example, if I wanted to do a group with someone who's in New Mexico, we could still meet the needs of our New Mexico members as well as our members in Texas, so long as there was one of each of us that meets the guidelines for the state. Someone who's licensed in each state helping to lead the group. So that opens up a lot of possibilities for us. So for example, in that model that Ryan talked about, if tomorrow I spoke with a bishop who had someone that had, for example, an anxiety and depression need, and we felt like that a group would be the best fit for them, we will not have a group in our agency, an anxiety and depression group, until March. But in our Houston agency, we have one that's starting the middle of January. And so we can refer them to our Houston agency, and that way we can meet more needs and more quickly as we share that amongst our agencies. So with regard to the youth pornography group, one of the things that they discovered as part of the correlation process was that it was really important that parents, a parent or parents or guardian, parent or guardian, be involved in the process. And so that makes it kind of a unique group from the others that we've had, in that the youth pornography group will have an 8-session model where it will involve the youth, and there will be 5 parent meetings that will be just with the parents. And so as bishops, as you're working with and counseling with parents and youth, that's something to be mindful of, that it's a wonderful resource and it's also a significant time commitment, and it may not be the best fit for everyone. So 8 youth sessions, 5 parent sessions, and then there's also a bishop meeting that will be a part of that. And you can see the outline in the document that I have included there in the chat. This is a group that's it is correlated for young men and young women, but it will be gender specific. And so we're starting with young men because that's where we're seeing the greatest need. And it's most appropriate for our FSY stake youth dance aged youth between 14 and 18. Because this is youth, we think it's best that they meet for just an hour rather than an hour and a half. And so that makes it unique also from our other groups. And it's also important to know that just in 8 sessions, if you have a youth who's really struggled with, and I should say this is appropriate for masturbation and or pornography use. If someone has struggled with that for a while, over 8 sessions, they may not be able to completely stop their use, and that will probably be an ongoing process for them. So the 2 main goals of the group are to strengthen the relationship between youth and parents, and also to help reduce the shame that's so rampant both for parents who are saying, how did this happen to my youth? And also for the youth themselves who struggle. And so one of the things that we wanted to share with you is that as they went through the piloting process, they had some youth that felt so empowered by this process that they wanted to do the group more than one time. And so they did the group 2 and 3 times, which was so surprising to me to get our youth to go to a group at all, let alone to go more than one time. And so they said it was kind of like reading the scriptures. They got different things out of it each time. And so the facilitators had the youth that had participated more than once become kind of mentors to other youth who participated. We recognize that we're not going to be able to accommodate all of the youth activity nights, rewards with the scheduling of the youth session times, or with their many extracurriculars. So those are things to keep in mind. But the parent meetings and the bishop meeting will be on Sunday nights, the same time. And then the youth meetings will be on a weeknight. So I believe in our group that's starting in January, will be Tuesday nights from 7 to 8 for the youth. And then the parent meeting and the bishop meeting will be Sunday nights at 5 p.m. So I just wanted to quickly just share with you in terms of the calendar. The skills group just started this week and that will be ongoing. So Wednesdays, 12 to 1. In January, we'll be starting another men's pornography group that runs for 10 weeks. The youth pornography group will also start in January. That runs for 8 weeks. And then we're doing something new with our marriage group this year. And that is that it's traditionally done as a kind of a marriage enrichment. And so we're going to try that format and do it as a weekend seminar. And so the first one we're going to do in New Braunfels the weekend after Valentine's Day. If any of you have been to that part of Texas, Green is that adorable community that's very close by. So our hope is to kick that off on a Friday night. Couples can join and then maybe go to dinner and talk about what they've learned. And then we'll spend all of Saturday together learning concepts and increasing their attachment to each other. And then we're going to do the same thing in September, but we'll do that in the Austin Cedar Park area. And we don't have the exact location on that one yet. Then in March, we'll be doing an anxiety and depression group, and that runs for 8 weeks. And also in September, and I've shared this proposed calendar with you in the chat. We won't be starting groups in April, May, and June, or in August, but the groups they're over, as I say, an 8, 10, or 12 week. The other group that we're excited to start this year is a healing from sexual abuse group that will run over the summer. And that will be for adult women, and it will be run co-facilitated by 2 women, myself and our part-time counselor, Britton Wheeler. So please know, as part of this consultation process, as Ryan mentioned, when we consult with bishops, Relief Society presidents, elders quorum presidents, and when we consult with members, one of the first things that we'll be considering is their appropriateness for participation in a group. And we've had some amazing experiences with our groups. Barry and I just ran our first anxiety and depression group that finished up right before Halloween. And it was such a unique group in that from the very beginning, we had a diverse group of men and women, young and old, with a diverse set of experiences. Most had been struggling with anxiety and/or depression for an extended period of time. And from the get-go, they were so supportive of each other. And the very last group, almost all of them said, I've done individual counseling before, and I was a little bit reticent about doing this new group model. But they said, I gained so much from other people's experiences, from their input, from their support. And so we're getting a lot of positive feedback about people's participation in the groups. So we're excited about it and excited to continue to work with you and with your members. And I want to turn some time over to Barry to kind of help us wrap things up, be sure that we've covered all our bases.
Okay. I've noticed with the questions in the group, and Ryan's been trying to answer a bunch of those. Just real quick on some of those is the asking us to share the things somebody had put in there. Ryan is recording this so that we can share it with others. He also, when it comes to our resource lists, we don't share those, and there's a good reason for that. Is within as we don't what's called vet any particular counselors. We do get to know them before we send out referrals, and so that list is ever churning, and it's been growing. I've been here with Family Services in the Austin/San Antonio area for the last 2 years, and that the number of resources we have has been growing, especially with these changes that we've been doing. I've been very impressed with, and so with that, and also what Clarice was just talking about, and Ryan said about the online services that we're finding, and the things that the church is doing. We feel that this system where the bishops can come to us and we can talk about that is the best way at this time to be able to do that and not have a list that was in the ex-bishop's drawer when he left and they pulled it out, and it has names on it of people who aren't in the area. Also, people we've actually had one or two that no longer would have a license. Things like that happen, and so we like this way better. The question on face-to-face versus online, we have an office in San Antonio and an office. I'm working out of the Vista Ridge building in Austin. It's the building where the temple is being constructed here, and I chose that for a good reason. But so we do see people face to face, not as it used to be because of what COVID did and everything like that. And people have found, oh wow, we like to do this online thing. So so with that, we've got both sides of that, and we could talk with the bishop. And as many have asked about the Relief Society, did I hear correctly? The Relief Society and the Elders Quorum presidencies or presidents can help. Yes, that is a change that we've had that is very exciting to us too. With that though, how do they put it? The money stops with the bishop though, and so it always comes from the bishop and through the bishop. And once working with the member who is being sent, if they're consenting of it, then we can work with the Elders Quorum president and the Relief Society president in these areas. And usually when I was a bishop, I used my Relief Society president so much when it came to knowledge of how the families were doing. So I myself a very strong advocate of that. Spanish, most of the people put up with my Spanish, and that's a good thing. But I am the only Spanish counselor around in the area. We have a non-member Spanish counselor down in San Antonio that we use frequently. We have we have a couple of them around Texas that speak Spanish, and we use them. So with that comes us still trying to find the same resources in Spanish, but we are working very hard with that. Groups in Spanish, yes, we will be having all of these that they've talked about. We do process them, and once again with the other therapists that are in that have licenses in Texas that speak Spanish. So it's not as often as the ones in English, but we do have those. The Hold Me Tight that Clarice talked about, I am very excited about that. Clarice and I will be down in New Braunfels doing that the week after Valentine's Day. Think about that for your members. We'll try to get some flyers or things that you can put up in your buildings about that too, so that they can we can fill that up. We think it was a great program. We did about 6 months ago. We finished one, and we're excited to do it just in a 2-day period. You think about what we're providing here is free, something that usually would cost $500 to do. And the opportunity for our members to grow in that is it's fun. The one thing that I always wondered about was I'm a convert to the church. I joined when I was 17. And, the word living church, we're growing. And we continue to grow from that 1989 phone call I had to do with a psychiatrist to figure out what was going on to everything that we have now, not just family services, but within the church. What I've seen is we're setting it up so that we can make it. And so you think about your members, you think about the groups that we just talked about, and you've got a member, but you're not really sure how to help. We have the basic skills group. And with that group, we talk about major topics of depression, anxiety, and things like that. And then it goes, if we still see more need, we have the other groups. We have an anxiety and depression and those other groups to be able to keep that going. So once again, the blessing of that. And most of the time, I think from here, we will use that basic skills group. It will go every week, and it's an open group. So that means as we get people in, they'll just go into, and there's 7 sessions that are there. And somebody actually mentioned, wouldn't this be a good thing for the bishops or for other leaders to just come into and look at what we're doing? Yes, please. One of the things I'm noticing, the more and more that the church is trying to do, is prevention. What can we do before we have the problems? And all of these things that we're talking about are ways to be able to help before the major issues. What can we do? And the church has other programs that's not part of family services. Like, for instance, I don't know how many of you have ever heard of Kyle Roberts and her resources that she has to be able to help people with education and with jobs and certifications and things like that. And she's a great resource there in San Antonio that even Austin can use. So, thinking about that, when we come to resources within the church, LDS.org, and starting there and going to, there's a section within there on counseling resources. And in those sections, you can learn more about what do you do with abuse, addictions, employment, finances, gender, grief and loss, marital conflict, mental health in of itself, pornography, same-sex attraction, all of these topics. The church are now putting more things out about being able to help our members and help us as leaders to be able to know, because a lot of times we just don't have the answers. We don't know what we need to do. So with all of these things that we've talked about, the ability for us now, when somebody comes into or you start to realize somebody's struggling, I want you to think about, instead of and I actually brought one, here's my magic wand, but guess what? This isn't working. Our ability to step back. Usually we're here where the Lord called you because, and you feel that I want this desire to be able to help right now. Sometimes we need to go through the process to be able to step back and really look at, and this is what all of these programs and everything, the things that we're doing. How are we in our ward dealing with these resources? What are we using already? First, I would ask the questions of what the member is doing. Somebody asked in the questions about what if the member doesn't want to come to therapy? If he's over 18 or she, I shouldn't say it's a guy, right? I should say he or she is over 18 and they're not causing any trouble. And this is what I learned about my schizophrenic friend back in 1989. They're not breaking any laws. You can't force somebody to this. But when you start talking about self-reliance and you start talking about self-esteem and self-worth, and you start to help them be able to have this desire to make these changes, then we look at what's there. We start to look at, what have they done for themselves? What is in their families and how their families can help? What kind of other resources did they have? When you look at stress and coping, I look at it as a balancing. On the one side, they've got the stressors in their lives. On the other side is their coping skills, the things that they have that'll be able to help. These programs that we're talking about and the opportunity to use family services is part of the coping skills, but it's not the answer. There's all these other things that are in it. And our ability to use both, to be able to help take away maybe some of these stressors, but more is to help the member grow spiritually and get a balance in their lives. So that's why we have these programs and the things that we look at. So like I was saying, the individual themselves, their family, what the ward can do. How are we doing on our classes in self-reliance? Do we have the right ones set up in the ward in the stake? Do we have, what other resources do we have? The ARP program, also the addiction recovery program that is at least online almost any time. And you can go online in LDS.org and find where those are. We have a really good one up here in Cedar Park that is face-to-face. We have some great facilitators that work that. We can open up other programs as each of the stakes desire and have people that can be able to facilitate them. So we've got other things that we can put on this coping skill line, these resources that we're finding. Online, even the podcasts that we find are opportunities. Right now, when it comes to anxiety and depression, one of the things we're using is through a Utah State program called ACT. It has within it anxiety, depression, but it also has other things, whatever you're dealing with. They have ways, and they have a guy named Russ Harris came up with this program, and it's interesting how much people have tapped onto that and really are learning and growing and helping because of that without having to come to us. And we can help facilitate, help that happen. These member resource discussions that we have are a nice part of that, where we're not taking them on as clients, but we do take 20, 30 minutes with each of them to be able to talk through each of those things, how that's going. I was in Bishop's office just a couple of weeks ago with the Elders Quorum president, Relief Society president, myself, Bishop, and minister of this one member, and we were able to come up with a plan, help her to be able to grow. These opportunities are there. I go through all of the charts and everything, but I promised my bishop is here, and I know he's missing our breakfast because of this, the Christmas breakfast, and I'll be going to it after this. But there's others of you that are consecrated your time in this, and we're here. The reason why I took this job was to be able to help, to be able to serve the Lord in any way we can. These other counselors that have spoken to you, very spiritual people. I've loved working with them. Great opportunity we have in Texas. I'm excited. The reason why I came to Austin was to be able to help people. And the reason why I picked my office being there next to the temple. And just like that ground being broken right now, and it was noisy for the first couple of months that they're trying to pound through that limestone. But just like that, we're trying to help our members grow, our members to be able to serve. And little by little, that construction is going to be happening over the next couple of years. And I'm going to be able to watch it, and I'm going to be able to help my members watch it. The clients that we have. It's a great opportunity. And I just love this living church and the opportunity to continue to be part of helping out, be part of the solution. But one of the major things in this, in bringing this to you today, is that we're here to help you. And the way we're going to be able to do it, to make that balance in helping all of our members, is for us to be able to work together. And I'm excited that there's 160 of you here with us today. This is fantastic. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Mhm.
Right.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you for that. And thank you all for being here. Just with a couple minutes that we have left, I just want you to know I've been going in, I've been trying to answer as many questions as possible. I'm going to stay on and as people leave as well, to just kind of put in some documents. Clarice did put in the document for the group schedule, so it is in there, so that you can see those projected dates. And so I'll get some of these presentations and things that we shared, my slide, I can share as well, and some other things. So if you want to go in and look in there later, you can find it. We will send this out to the stake presidents, so that they can, disseminate this information down to the bishops and to the ward leader, all the ward leaders as well, so that you can have this. There are many questions, and I haven't been able to get to all of them, but for all the ones that we haven't been able to get to, we will put them together, like I said at the beginning, and send an email out, so that everyone can have those questions answered. If you didn't get to them answered as well, you can reply to and a question comes up, you can reply to the email that was sent out with the link. That comes to me, and I can find those in there and add those to the questions that we will be answering as well. So there'll be a place even after this, if something comes up, as soon as you click out and you're like, I should have asked that question, you are welcome to go into the email, just type it in, and I'll get that email and we can add that. We appreciate all of you. We know that you are all putting in such hard work. As Barry was saying about supporting, and serving and helping others, we know that that's what everyone here is doing. Everyone's taking the time. You're taking time out of your Saturdays to attend this, because there are people under your stewardship that you care about and love. You want to be there and find ways to help and support them. And we're so grateful for that. This is how the Lord's church is supposed to operate, is through service and through care. And so it's just wonderful to see so many of you that care. We're grateful for you. I'll offer a closing prayer, and then we'll finish. So thank you so much. Oh, Chloe, sorry, before we finish.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly say, because I realize this is something that is confusing sometimes for our bishops and for our members, and just to kind of, wrap things up a little bit. And that is that because we're not able to meet all of the needs just with our counselors, we do use our community referrals. And as Barry said, we don't share that list because it's ever evolving. And we're consistently trying to find the best fit for a member, whether that's with one of us or with a community resource. The thing that is confusing is that our services are free, but if we are referring someone to the community, there is a cost, because that's their bread and butter. And many of them do not take insurance, because insurance is challenging, as we know. So that's just something to be aware of as you are making a referral for a member, is to, help set that up. That's one thing you can do as Relief Society presidents, elders quorum presidents, bishops, is to help them understand that referring them to us doesn't mean that they will necessarily be receiving free counseling from us, but we'll be talking about all of those resources that we've discussed today, including self-help online resources, groups, counseling with us, or potentially referring them out. And so that's a good thing for you to remember too, bishops, is that there are fast offering funds that are available with your discretion and your approval that can be used to help either defray or cover the costs of those services. So I just wanted to clarify that. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. I really appreciate you sharing that, because that is important to know. We've gone through a lot of these, and we appreciate all of you. So I'll offer a closing prayer, like I said, and finish up. Our dear Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for this day and for the opportunity that we've had to be able to gather at this time. We're so grateful for all those that have taken the time to be here and to consider the needs of those in their area and those that they work with and love. We're grateful for the gospel and for the atonement that blesses us and helps us and provides a means for us to return to thee. We ask that thou please be with those that are struggling, that have challenges, that they might be able to recognize the Spirit in their lives, and they might be willing to ask for the help that thou hast for them. We pray that thou will please bless them to recognize the atonement in their lives and the ways that can help them. And please be with all those that are here today, that are leaders, that they might feel thy love as well, and the support and the love thou hast for them and the efforts that they make. And we pray that thou watch over us and protect us and all that we need. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Appreciate everyone being here. Have a wonderful weekend and Christmas season.